I'm Helen Smith, I'm CEO of RMIT Online, and we're hosting you here today on this very interesting topic, mind over machine. The machine, robotics, and the future of work. Right. Really warm welcome to all of you. We know we have current students, alumni, perhaps prospects, students, and many of our industry partners we work with in our short course portfolio and in our career programs here today. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for getting up early, but hopefully a very exciting conversation today on the panel. It's a very interesting topic and one that sometimes has some very negative perceptions circulating. Robots taking over the world, dystopian views of technology that are perhaps peddled sometimes by less reputable publications than the AFR that Yolanda joins us with today. However, at RMIT, we don't take that view of these new technologies. We have a tradition of working with industry and embracing new technologies to see what it can do to augment our capabilities and make us more productive, more efficient, to make Australia more competitive in the global stage. And these are certainly another area where RMIT is really progressing with short courses developed by industry as well as accredited programs, teaching these skills and embracing what they can do for our businesses and our governments. We're very proud of our alumni and how they are now applying a number of these use cases into their businesses and departments. Speaking of alumni, I am honoured today to introduce one of our alumni, Yolanda Redrup from the AFR. She is a technology journalist now, and she will be introducing you to our very illustrious panel today and sharing our discussion. So welcome, Yolanda. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. So there's no doubt that automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning have been the buzzwords of 2018 and it looks like it's continuing into 2019. But it's not all futuristic. It's not all about autonomous vehicles or robots that will do our jobs for us, even though if you're a truck driver with Rio Tinto as a booker and an H degree. Far from being something that's way in the future, automation is already affecting our day-to-day lives. If you're a business owner, the chances are you're already using Xero or a MOB, and if it wasn't for automation, you would still be manually coding all the invoices or bank transactions. But with a SEEK study last year, finding that less than 50% of Australians thought that automation was really a good thing, and a quarter of respondents believing that artificial intelligence would do more harm than good. I'm very pleased today to be able to welcome our panellists to talk us through the consequences of automation, AI, and all the things that we need to do to be prepared. So first up we have Robert Wickham from Salesforce. He is the Area Vice President. Senior Strategy and Innovation Lead Customer Experience at TAC Victoria, Clancy. President of Bosch Australia, Gavin Smith. And Asia Pacific and Japan Director of Customer Success and Transformation at Pivotal Software, Roz Gregory. Right, so where we're going to start off, I thought it might be useful for the audience. You can all give us a bit of a rundown, I suppose, on what automation means to you and also what your sort of roles involved with day-to-day. So Robert, maybe we'll start with you and we'll work our way down.
All right, thank you. Well, hello everyone and good morning and thank you for coming out. I think we live in very exciting times right now. We're accelerating into this world where everything is becoming hyper-connected and intelligent. The World Economic Forum refers to this as the fourth industrial revolution, and it's something that we pay attention to quite intentionally at Salesforce. We spend a lot of time thinking about and helping our customers navigate. And fundamentally what it means is how can you use all of these technologies that are now available in the mainstream to transform the interactions and the relationships you have with your customers. So I can talk a lot more about that, but that's just a quick snippet in terms of my specific role. So I'm responsible for our specialized teams across Asia Pacific. So that has 4 major geographies: Australia, New Zealand, one, Greater China, India, and ASEAN, to use the Salesforce capabilities to do the kinds of things that I talked about, which is create new relationships with your customers from a sales, service, marketing, and commerce perspective.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name's Jo, and I work for the Transport Accident Commission, which is a social insurer, and in fact, probably everyone sitting here, particularly got a Victoria registered vehicle, you would be customers of the TAC in some way, either through our road safety efforts in preventing road trauma, or if you are unlucky enough to have an accident, we certainly look after you from the time that you are in hospital through to even people who have injuries that need services for the rest of their lives. So I'm in the corporate strategy team, and I'm the strategy innovation lead, which means day to day, I'm a pretty avid learner, so I sort of absorb some new methodologies and ways of working and facilitate groups across the organisation to either develop our strategy or execute our strategy. So I've been working with the exec team and the board on our strategic horizons beyond 2020, our current strategy. So really looking forward to those emerging technologies, where we want to head as an organisation and how they might, how we're going to craft our way of getting there with the impact of those emerging technologies and other opportunities and risks. So use a bit of futures thinking in how we're doing that. And I also lead design sprints of pipeline of new ideas around our strategy. So we pull together cross-functional teams across the organisation and get them solving business customer problems using human-centered design. So really doubling down on the empathy and the customer insights that we have about what they're really looking for in recovery from a transport accident. And then, so I'm not actually an expert in technology or analytics, or even really digital, but what I do is surround myself with those experts in how we do human-centered design. And it's my job to really understand conceptually what they are able to offer with their knowledge and the tools that they bring into the process to really solve that customer problem and bring value to our customers in the Victorian community.
Hey, good morning, my name's Gavin. I head the Bosch Group's activities in this region, Australia, New Zealand, but also broader Oceania. It's worthwhile spending a moment about why I would be sitting here today, because some of you might know the Bosch Group for appliances, some of you might know the Bosch Group for power tools, some of you might know the Bosch Group for things that go in cars. But we are one of the world's largest corporations in terms of revenue, and we're at the forefront of many of the disruptions where automation and artificial intelligence is being applied. But we don't do it for any other reason than to improve outcomes for individuals, groups of individuals, society, and the environment. That sounds pretty altruistic. And if I was sitting here and I was an executive in a publicly listed company, you could probably question whether there might be a big profit motive in that as well. But we're 92% owned by a charitable trust. So when we say invented for life, and that's what drives us, we actually mean it. Because when we make a profit, the dividend goes to the foundation, so we can then do cancer research, and it can do work to resettle homeless, and it can do work with refugees, and it can do things for social good. So in our business, there is absolutely no question automation is going to disrupt. We are bringing the disruption. Everything we make by 2020 will be connectable. And those things that we make, we want them to be providing a better experience, more convenient, a better quality of life, and a safer life for the customers and the end users of our products, where they might be embedded and are invisible to you. So that's why I'm here today.
Thanks, Gavin. I'm excuse me, Roz Gregory. I come from Pivotal Software, and we're a company that not many people know in this region, but we're sort of really at the heart of that Silicon Valley product generation. We've been working there for 30 years with companies like Google, Netflix, Uber, Square, names you might understand, Twitter, Instagram, all helping those companies really to become the best software deliverers they can. What I find really interesting about this conversation is that a lot of this comes back to culture. And if you look at the culture that a company like Pivotal has, the values are really do what works, do the right thing and be kind. And although we're working with 50% of the Fortune 500, trying to help them become these great software delivery vehicles, right? Because software is at the heart of everything that we do. Ultimately, they understand that in order to remain relevant in the future, yes, we need to automate, but it's actually about culture, the culture of the organisation being in the heart, of actually making people's work on a day-to-day basis valuable, making people feel valued. So how can we take those tasks, those manual tedious tasks away from them so they can actually focus on things of quality? And so Pivotal Software, and my role is to make sure that our customers transform successfully into these modern cloud-native software at the heart of everything they do companies, and that we make them successful sustainably. So really that's why I'm here.
Perfect. And Robert, I wanted to ask you, study from Hayes released last week showed that 18% of people already thought that their job has been impacted by automation in some way. So hoping you can run us through perhaps how you feel like your own job's been impacted by automation, or how Salesforce is automating parts of that CRM journey. And then equally, when do you think the really transformative effects of AI are going to start flowing through?
Yeah, great question. And I think, so we think about it more in terms of intelligence as opposed to automation. Because when you think about AI, immediately people rotate to the dystopian automation, robots taking over the world sort of scenario. But what's fascinating to me is that AI is already all around us. And I think it's important to distinguish between what we refer to as big AI and small AI. So small AI is all of these intelligent capabilities that are already working its way between our personal lives and our professional lives. So think about the relationship you have with your phone today and the variety of applications that you rely on to run your personal life, whether it's Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. These are AI-powered devices that are using sophisticated algorithms that are giving you these intelligent experiences. I did an Uber here this morning, when I fired up the app, an algorithm matched the driver with myself and brought it to me in the fastest possible time. That's a really sophisticated use case, but for the user, it seems as natural as electricity. And I think that's the journey we are on for small AI, is how do you infuse these intelligent experiences in everything, whether it's a sales experience or a service experience or a marketing experience. So intelligent sales, what does that mean? Any salesperson in the room, having the AI tell you where you should focus your time, which opportunities have the highest propensity to turn into revenue. Intelligent service, if you're a customer service agent, you receive a call, can the AI then tell you, here's the next best action to solve this customer's problem as quickly as possible. So you're empowering the customer service agent, but you're also delivering an outcome for the customer much faster. That's very different than big AI, which is human brain substitution. And if you think about our brains, that's the most sophisticated general purpose computing platform you can ever think about. And I think we're a long way off from that reality, but we're moving to a world now where AI is all around us, almost as pervasive as electricity.
And Roz, how about at Pivotal Software? How do you feel like AI automation is already having an impact?
Yeah, I think our perspective is really at the enterprise end of town, right? So we see these huge behemoth companies who've been around often for hundreds of years, hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people. And what we see is that every company wants the same outcomes, right? Everyone has their own problems and they characterize them in a different way. But at the end of the day, they all want to make more profit, so they need to be revenue producing. So how do they do that? How do they get close to their customer? How do they make their people more effective, more productive in this world where productivity is decreasing, economies are sort of stagnating. So all of that heavy lifting how do they manage their risk? How do they reduce their costs? I mean, this is really where we're focusing. So how do we help them automate the things that are tedious? How do we help them get closer to the customers by building these feedback loops? So we're all about that intersection of data and software. And the more that you can take that, as Robert says, that small AI and inculcate that into the way people work every day, it releases them to do more valuable things for their company, right? Producing sort of outcomes that they're seeking and becoming more productive. And so we see the big companies wanting to be like the small disruptors, and we're trying to give them the tools to do that, the automation tools, and show them how to be like those smaller disruptive companies who have those really fast feedback loops, who can take advantages of the advantage from that. And that's where we're seeing the big productivity and the impactful areas.
And Joe, I don't know if it's just myself or if everyone here would sort of agree, people don't necessarily think when you think big, tech leader or innovator, TAC, what first comes to mind. So hopefully you can run us through, I suppose, how on that perspective you see automation having an effect, and how are you actually preparing your staff, I suppose, for their roles changing, their jobs perhaps looking different in 5 or 10 years to what it does today?
Yeah, well, it's really wide ranging for us, because obviously the future of things at a macro level, we're thinking about what are our capabilities that are going to be built in the future, how else could we make our role valuable in the future? And thinking about the transformation of connected automated vehicles, we know, really the technology is way ahead of our role in policy, regulation, social and cultural change. That will kind of lag behind the technology. Interesting to hear what Gavin thinks about that. But that's what I'm seeing playing out at the moment, that technology is going to lead the way, but it's more the system around connected automated vehicles that will, I think we'll more see more incremental changes in safety in waves before we get to the real transformation scale that will need a whole different system around it. And then in terms of so that's on a big strategy level around our fundamental purpose around what we do. And then at the more day-to-day level right now, we have just had things like we've done strategic. I mean, we're a public sector, we're a large public, we're probably doing what a lot of those incumbents are doing, which is not really revolutionary, but it's doing strategic workforce planning, mapping out, the roles that will change, rotating the functions of our front line. So we're now getting them within a day to do accounts plus contact centre plus claims administration, so that they skill up, and as we are automating parts of their roles, we're able to create value in other ways. So that functioning, that sort of rotating part of them doing what they do is really important. We're also investing in data and analytics in terms of just the basics like hygiene, cleaning up our data. So really addressing some of the integrity and reliability issues, so we're getting ready to be able to really maximise and leverage machine learning. And also strategically looking at partnering with other government departments, because that's a real asset of the public sector, is these large data sets. So working with hospitals, Ambulance Victoria, and Medicare around how we on new encryption technology, so that we can de-identify data to be able to share it and really get some social outcomes out of being able to do that, as well as employing data scientists. We're integrating them into our organisation.
So Gavin, you're obviously a bit of an expert in the autonomous vehicle field from the work that Bosch is doing. What are your thoughts, I suppose, of when, the TAC might have to fundamentally change its purpose?
Wouldn't that be great?
What about
I mean, we're all working towards zero on the road. Zero roads on. So has anyone been involved in an accident in any time in the last 12 months where someone didn't make a mistake? Generally not. I mean, accidents on the road, we don't call them accidents, we call them crashes, and they're 90% plus caused by human error. So for a company like ours that has a high value of human life and improving societal outcomes, it's natural for us to try and work on ways to improve road safety. We've been doing it already for literally 60 or 70 years, but the latest stuff, around highly automated driving is the bit that we're most excited about. Because that, honestly, can be the silver bullet for the road toll. What are we doing? Well, by 2022, our customers that we're supplying parts and systems to will have cars on the road that can drive by themselves. It's not far away. And we've been talking about this literally for a decade. So a decade ago, it seemed so far away. 5 years ago, it seemed so far away. Here we are, 2019. Within 3 years, our big customers that we're doing the leading work with will have cars on the roads in parts of Europe that will be interacting with everyday transport, everyday pedestrian traffic, everyday environmental conditions, and we expect it will operate flawlessly. That's enormous.
I think there will be a bit of a scramble between for policy, regulation, law, like insurance models to catch up.
So it's been coming for such a long time, and we've had time to think about it, but until the technology actually crystallizes and it's visible and you can see it and you can understand it, it can be hard to make an early move in changing regulation and changing other business models. So you were talking earlier about the role of the phone in society and smartphones. I talked about the life support device. Because literally when I lose it, I'm lost. Without that device, I can't get a car, I can't find a train, I can't see where I'm supposed to be. There's so much of my life on that device. And it will be so deeply embedded into our transport systems in terms of the way we use it.
See, that's a fascinating point as well, because one of the ways we think about it is it's not a fundamental tension between AI and the human, but it's the complement between AI plus the human. And we're seeing that today in the relationships that we have with our phones, right? We talk about augmented intelligence, augmented experience. We are all augmented today by our personal devices. Pick your choice. And that creates this intelligent experience in multiple dimensions. The way to think about it is, as Gavin said, think about life if you showed up here today and you forgot your phone at home. It would be an absolute disaster because you wouldn't be able to communicate, you wouldn't be able to collaborate, you wouldn't be able to coordinate. And pretty soon we're moving to where the phone itself as an interface may be abstracted away. You can just have a native voice conversation with your OS. And I'm a big sci-fi fan. I've got a 12-year-old boy, so I've seen every Avengers movie out there. But just think about Tony Stark's reality, where he has his AI with him at all times. And he's having a natural conversation with Jarvis. And Jarvis, what Jarvis is doing is orchestrating all of the parts of Tony Stark's life, right? And that's the world we're moving to, where AI becomes a way of adding to our reality as opposed to taking away from our reality.
How do you see this changing productivity, workplace productivity? Am I going to be expected to, file my stories remotely on my commute as my car drives down the highway? How is this going to change workplaces in that regard?
Well, I think we're probably going to see quite substantial workplace changes. In terms of exactly how it changes, I'm not interested, so I can't really give you a clear view on that. But what we encourage our customers, the way to think about it is through a scenario planning point of view. That says, think about the possible scenarios that jobs in the future entail. And there are 1 of 4 possible scenarios. And they're driven by 2 major factors. How quickly new jobs come into the market, fast or slow, or how quickly existing jobs disappear, fast or slow. And if you combine those 2 factors, you end up with 1 of 4 possible scenarios. Either you have a job crisis where there are not enough new jobs, or you've got a skills shortage where not enough skilled people for the new jobs that are coming into the world. You've got a new economy where if we're sitting in 1999 having this conversation and you said, what are the jobs of the future? Many of the jobs that we take for granted today, people would not have said, right? So that's a new economy. And then a false alarm, the 4th one is that no real crisis manifests itself. But the common thread across all of those 4 scenarios is the ability to live. So how can you create pathways for young students like Jess there, or existing workforce to learn new skills? And those are the things we think about, and I'm sure the panelists on the stage here have a view on that. But learning to us is one of the major things to solve jobs of the future.
The tech skills gap is something we've heard a lot about in the past year. how do you feel like we're going in terms of our progression towards being able to solve that, and how are our education systems evolving in your minds to be able to meet the needs of the future? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think, you know, the migration of the workforce into these new roles is a real challenge. So the big companies that we're dealing with have this great asset. They have these people with this embedded subject matter expertise in their domain. So if it's insurance, a lot of these insurance companies have been around for 100 plus years. They've got people who really know the business and know their customers. But how do they get that IP out of those people and release it in such a way that they can iterate on it, they can be responsive to customer demand, they can turn those things into products and features and offers to customers, right? So most of the senior leaders that I speak to are like, how do I unlock this for my people? What is the path for us to move someone from a business analyst to a data scientist, or an over-the-counter or customer-centered focused person who has all that great customer detail into someone who can contribute to a product outcome that actually makes our company better, that makes people safer. So a lot of what we're dealing with is that workforce transition piece. And it's not easy, right? So we say to everyone before we get started, this is a really hard journey. You want to transform the way that your organisation works and the culture and the way that you produce outcomes. It's a lot of hard work and it's over multi-years. And one of the big issues we have is that most of these companies are public and the market is very short term. It's very quarter by quarter or year by year. And it's hard to sustain that sort of transformation and it's hard to get all the leadership aligned. So there's lots of things that actually impact that people, that workforce transition piece, other than just sort of role mapping and giving people skills. But what I see working with children in STEM programs is that there's still a lot of focus on technical skills, which is very important. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's actually a lot of the soft skills. It's the cognitive flexibility, it's the creative thinking, it's the problem solving, it's the collaboration and communication skills that allow people to be able to engage and become part of what we need to make learning organisations or learning organisms. So the learning organisms allow you to adapt because the technology is going to keep coming. Technology will keep advancing, the cloud is now here, AI, AR, what is it going to be next? It's the ability to actually have people collaborate and learn on an ongoing basis. So those built-in feedback loops and the rituals that allow them openness and transparency to learn and grow. And that's what we're trying to build. People who can transition into these learning teams and learning organisms who are actually prepared to adapt and respond to the technology that continues to come at them.
I was at an event a couple of years ago and I had an interesting conversation with the technologist who was he was moving very much on the technical side of this industry. And I was talking about how I got through high school, we didn't learn computer skills really. We didn't learn how to code. We certainly didn't have any sort of technical knowledge unless we opted to do a computer science subject. And I was like, with all these, new graduates coming through who are going to have to learn how to code, how am I supposed to stay relevant to the workforce? And he made this point where he believed that I should opt to not worry about my technical skills and focus 100% of my soft skills and be really, really good at that. So how do you guys feel that mixture needs to be? Should people try and become good at both? Should you hone in on being really good at soft skills or really good at technical skills? And how does that balance work?
The unicorns are great at everything.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time looking for unicorns. And at the end of the day, I think organisations have wanted to buy in those tech skills. I think large organisations are now looking at that saying, actually what we need is people and culture, and we can actually, we can adapt people in our organisation if they culturally fit to have those sorts of skills and buy them in. So I think this question of sort of buy versus build is becoming really key as organisations try and keep and retain their people. There's a huge cost and actually build this learning organism that they want for the future. So I'm sort of, I'm on the fence. I think soft skills are the things that companies want to keep because culture is so important to become that future sustainable business. But you absolutely, the tech skills, they're pretty key these days, but I think you can buy them.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's a big ask to have one person who has it all. And what I see running these cross-functional teams in my design sprints, it's the diversity of skills within small teams that is what gets us value. So it's combining and fusing the ideas and the way that people with the soft skills and the tech skills work together. So that how do you scale that?
I think for us as a company that employs lots and lots of technical people, we try and find staff that have got a base awareness, even of things that they will not use. So I sit on the advisory board for a couple of universities, and I'm often asked, what should we do with our curriculum? What are the needs of industry in the future? I said, well, if I knew that, I'd probably go into consulting rather than doing what I do. But I'll tell you what's missing right now, and the first one for me is that there's not enough being done to spark enthusiasm for STEM in young people, so that you fill the pipeline at an early age. And we're doing some work ourselves around that. The second one is that there is no such thing as an education program anymore with data science is not relevant. Every single curricula at school and at university should have a data science element to it, because the application of data analytics is changing everything we do. And if you understand that sooner, it can help you make better choices about what you do for a living, but also how you do it for a living. So they're two of the fundamental things. In our business, we're an engineering-heavy company. We design and we build lots of things, lots of products, but increasingly we're having to think about user experience, user application, and how what we are making changes people's lives, and bringing different business models based on that technology. And that requires a different skill set than your traditional engineer. And that's quite hard for the institutions today, because the people who are good at engineering do engineering, but people who are good at the other stuff go off to the human resources or arts or something else. So finding a way to blend the...
In fact, I don't really see it as soft skills. I see it as new skills. And I think the world is changing dramatically, and the educational systems have not caught up just yet. And if you think about it, historically, the world's computers were a network of human beings. So you had to learn fundamental skills as how to do math so that we can compute, and then how to do good writing so that we can correspond and so forth. And those base level skills are now being handled by machines. So the new skills, what some of us will refer to as soft skills, are becoming even more important. Creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, understanding the human condition, empathy, etc. So I think it's incumbent upon the education systems to figure out how do we infuse these fundamental new skills into the curriculum, because the jobs of the future, whilst we don't know exactly what they will become, we're beginning to get a glimpse of how they will be composed. And the things that require repetition are going to get automated away. And the things that require understanding the human condition are going to be left for the foreseeable future to humans like ourselves. So think about the doctor of the future. The analysis is going to be done by machines, and it's probably going to be done with a lot more precision than a doctor can do today. But the communication of that analysis, and the prescription of it, and sitting at the bedside of the patient, you want that to be done by a human as opposed to a robot. So the skills of the future are going to change dramatically, and we need to figure out how we both create opportunities for students that are in school today to learn those skills, but also people in the workforce to be able to develop those skills.
It's a really good point. We actually, so to Robert's point, our company hires for empathy. Empathy is the highest factor in the criteria through which we hire people, and we have over 30 years developed a way to test for empathy through pairing with that person on the way into the organisation. But it's really interesting. I've been working with schools recently, and I absolutely see an acknowledgement of the skill set that needs to be developed, but what I don't see is any actual implementation of changes in the way that children are being educated. I see programs coming in to help complement, but I don't see that fundamental change happening. Happy to be proven wrong, but I haven't seen that in my experience recently.